everyone? Okay. So yes, my name is Peggy Eichinger, and I'm going to tell you a little bit today about co-op here at the University of Waterloo. And I'm a graduate from Waterloo as well. I'm a chemical engineer. I've been working for a while here at the university, so I want to tell you a little bit about my experience as a female engineer and coming to Waterloo and what that was like. So, moving on to my second slide, if that's possible. So yes, as I just said, my background, a bit about co-op at Waterloo, and then I'll get a bit into admissions in engineering to what it is that we're looking for when we're looking at students that want to come to Waterloo. Oh, Dana, if you just hit the space bar, it should advance it. Yeah, and one more, please. Thanks. So who am I? I am a graduate. I graduated back in 1986, way back in the dark ages from engineering. I am a local girl. I started high school at St. Mary's. For anybody in the audience that's local, my vintage, you might remember that St. Mary's was a girls' school at that point in downtown Kitchener. So I went to a girls' school, didn't know what I wanted to do in grade 13, went to guidance and said, help, I don't know what I want to do in the future. And the guidance counselors looked at my marks, said, oh, you've got good marks in math and science. I think you should try engineering. And you know what, if you don't get into engineering, they'll probably offer you other things at the university, so then you have more time to decide. And I remember thinking, wow, I don't know if that's the best kind of advice. It doesn't really narrow things down. And I'm probably just not remembering it correctly because I started engineering and I loved it. It was the perfect fit for me. So I'm thinking now in retrospect, probably the guidance counselor knew a little bit more about me than I remember. But engineering here was fantastic. And I came from an all-girls school into a program that was predominantly men. And you know what? I never noticed. My class was a bit of an anomaly. 25% of my class back in 1986 were women in chemical engineering. The university was like, yay, there's an increase in, women in engineering. Next year, unfortunately, it went back down. Luckily, since then, it's been climbing. So things are looking a little bit better. But I was never, I never felt unique because I was a woman in the program. I was just one of the guys in the class, one of the classmates. The profs treated me like everyone else. And when I was on my work terms, I always was in an environment where there were other female engineers. I was fortunate that way. There was always a mentor for me everywhere I went. So it was all good. And I loved the program. I graduated in '86, as I said. I went to work as a process control engineer. So I automated pulp and paper plants and did some traveling to some pretty darn remote areas in Canada and in the United States. Spent a lot of time in areas where there's a lot of wooded areas, right? Way up north, way on the west coast. And I loved what I did. And then my career took a bit of a turn and I became a domestic engineer for a long time. So I stayed home with my kids, raised my kids, did a lot of volunteer work in the community. And it's surprising how much what you've learned in engineering comes in handy in all different kinds of things, right? That ability to think analytically from point A to point B, event planning, all that type of thing, that's what I ended up doing. And I did a lot of fundraising for different organizations, and all that attention to detail and process, all that stuff that you learn in engineering came in handy throughout those years as well. After that, I went back to work about 6 years ago at a small manufacturing plant in Kitchener, and I actually did some office work there and set up some of their processes and systems. And then lo and behold, saw this job advertised as a field coordinator here at the university. And I remember field coordinators from my day at Co-op and thought, hey, that would be a really cool job because you needed an engineering license to do this position that I took. And so I came back and I'm now a field coordinator. So what's a field coordinator? We're the folks that are responsible for engineering students or any co-op students here at Waterloo when they're out on a work term. So when you're on a school term, you're working with your professors, there's lots of resources here on campus, and then being co-op students, the next 4 months you're out working somewhere. Well, you still have contact with the university, everybody's assigned a field coordinator, and we also work with the employer. So we develop jobs, we're always looking for jobs for students. So if anybody in the audience thinks you can hire a student, you let me know. I'll give you my contact information at the end. So my area of responsibility is the City of Waterloo for engineering students. I work with half of the departments on campus when professors hire engineering students, and they hire quite a few, and it's really interesting to see all the research that goes on campus. And I'm also the arts coordinator for the region. So next slide, Dana. So what is co-op? Some of you might be familiar with co-op from your own experiences as students, or you might have siblings. Just the space bar, Dana. It's not working? No? I'm not sure what to suggest. Pardon? Right mouse click? Okay, I'll keep talking. So I'll explain how co-op works here at the university. A little different than it does in high school, if any of you are familiar with high school co-op programs. So essentially, students start here. Thank you. And there's a chart up there that shows the sequence, but you start in 4-month segments. So a term, an academic term, is 4 months long. A work term is also 4 months long. So students come to school for either 4 or 8 months initially, and then they start alternating 4 months of school with 4 months of work until you graduate 4 2/3 years later. So when you're on an academic term, you're going through courses and midterms and labs and labs and exams and all of those types of things. But on the odd day, you're going to be coming to school dressed in a business suit, ready to go to an interview at some point in the day. So while you're at school, you're also applying for jobs, working on resumes, developing interview skills. We have thousands of companies that come to campus and interview our students. So by the time your academic term is done, you're going to know where you're going to go and work for the next 4 months. We bring all the jobs to campus, so we make it easy for our students to be able to go through the whole process. Just one more click there, Dana. So when you're on a work term, it's not just that you're out working, you also are doing a couple of other things. On 5 of your 6 work terms, our students take an online professional development course called WATPD Engineering. And on those courses, you're learning things that are really important to employers: professionalism, ethics in the workplace, report writing, those types of things. On half of your work terms, you're going to be writing a work report, something analytical, something technically oriented that you're going to hand in when you come back to school. It's going to be marked by a faculty member. So engineering, you don't really think engineering and report writing, but report writing is, it's important that you can tell people what you've worked on, right? So we think report writing is a valuable skill. And the other thing is that students are evaluated at the end of the work term. So while you're out there, your employer's looking at how well you're working, how well you're adapting, how well you're contributing to the environment, and you have an evaluation when you come back. So as I said, we have employers coming from literally all over the world to interview our students. We have, for this term, I believe we have students in about 42 countries around the world. So it's a great opportunity on a work term to explore a different part of the world, see what's going on out there, see how things are different culturally in other areas. And some of the larger companies that you're all familiar with hire from Waterloo. Some of our regular hirers, of course, are RIM, Google, Facebook. You might have heard of that one. Procter & Gamble, Microsoft, all of the major banks in Canada, they all hire Waterloo students. So the facts about Waterloo Co-op. We started Co-op in Waterloo, started when the university started back in 1957. We are currently the largest co-op program in the world. For next term, we have 6,200 students going out to work. So that's an awful lot of interviews happening right now this month over in the Tatham Center. We have a dedicated building for co-op interviewing. We host lots of people over there. My numbers are probably actually a bit old. We probably have close to 4,000 registered employers right now. In the 1 month period, that's the main hiring, there would be about 55,000 applications that employers are looking at. And we host about 15,000 interviews over there in 1 month. So it's a huge process. So, and how well have we been doing? Despite the economy, we have just about 20 students right now that are not working for the fall term out of about 5,000. And we have averaged consistently about 96% employment in engineering, despite all of the economics ups and downs of the past few years. So when you consider youth unemployment, rates are pretty high right now. Unfortunately, we're still doing pretty good. And that helps when you've been doing it for 53 years. There's a lot of companies that rely on our students. They're a regular part of their workforce, and they're always going to come to us when they need help. Okay, benefits to students. So all of our engineering students are in co-op. It's mandatory. So some of our programs, it's optional, but not in engineering. And what's great about that is so your classmates and you are doing the same things at the same time. So you're looking for jobs at the same time. Your profs know that you're going to be maybe dashing out because you happen to be wearing that suit that day. And there's lots of support. Everybody here is involved in employment. It's all part of the culture here. What's great for the students is that you graduate with 2 years of paid work experience. So your resume when you graduate as an engineer from Waterloo like beats all the other resumes from other engineering schools, I think anyway, because you've got that 2 years work experience, right? And that's really valuable. That last 3 work terms too, in Ontario, you can gain credit towards getting your professional engineering license, which requires 4 years of experience. You get 1 year of experience while you're still a student. And what parents really like to know is that work terms are paid. So typically students can expect to earn over $50,000 on their 6 work terms, which helps a lot towards paying for your tuition and your books and your living expenses. And you know what? As a student, you have up to 6 opportunities to try different things, see what it is that you really like, test out different work environments, find out what kind of environment you like to work in. When I was a co-op student, I chose to do 2 work terms at each of 3 different companies. So I started out working for what's now Petro-Canada Research. It's in Mississauga and Sheridan Park. And I worked in a lab there doing oil, extraction of oil from oil sands, essentially. And that was like way back. I'm sure the technology is quite different now. So I did 2 work terms there. And then I did a huge change and ended up down in St. Catharines at a metal automotive parts manufacturer. So I went from the nice clean lab office environment to like loud, dirty, hot, like you would not believe, right? And I loved it because I could, you know, I was optimizing this heat treating furnace, this massive piece of equipment, and, you know, testing all these different parts that I was running through there and changing all these parameters on the process and going to the lab and testing the experiment. You know, it was just fantastic. It was a great environment. So I stayed there for 2 terms, and then I went to Procter & Gamble, which some of you will know. You probably recognize the brand name of Tide. I worked in the Tide detergent area. So manufacturing, again, which I realized pretty early on, that's what I like. I like the process stuff, hands-on, see how things are made. And I worked there, again, a manufacturing environment, you know, a bit of a different environment, but rather than that gritty stuff that you get in a metal parts plant, everything was kind of soapy. So that was kind of interesting. You had to be careful walking sometimes, especially if it was raining and your shoes were wet. So I had great experiences on my work terms. So when the girls are up here on the panel discussion, you might want to ask some of them what it is that they did on some of their work terms as well. Pardon me. So, and the benefit of co-op really is that you get that work experience and you can try different things. You can kind of customize your degree. So if you know that, gee, I really think I'd want to work purely in the alternative fuels area, try it out when you're a student. Try a couple of different jobs in that area, right? Or say you want to work in biomedical. We have lots of students, lots of professors that do research in that area. Work with one of them. See what it's really like to do research. See what it's really like to do, you know, a biomedical type of job, that type of thing. Okay, and essentially, you know, when you graduate, you are ready for the world of work. You have moved, you have adapted to different environments, you have written resumes, you've gone through umpteen interviews. You know, you're not going to be intimidated by that process anymore for the rest of your life. On a bit then to engineering admissions. So it sounds good, you want to come here eventually. And I know that a lot of the girls in the room are a little bit younger, so you got some choices yet. You've got a few things to consider. One thing to keep in mind is when you're looking at going into high school or finishing off high school, keep taking those math and science courses. And I know this, my son just started first year university as well. And having that math and science courses seem to open an awful lot of doors, okay? By not taking them, even if it's not engineering, you might be closing off some other doors. So take a look at what it is that you want to get into. Try and keep as many doors open as you can. So this may change by the time some of you are looking at coming to Waterloo, but right now our required courses for engineering are functions, calculus, physics, chemistry, and English. okay? And I say right now, that's what it is. Keep an eye on admissions requirements online, especially like just before you start grade 12, make sure you've got all the courses that you need, because things may change. Don't listen to your neighbors, don't listen to your parents. It may have changed since we went. Well, listen to your parents, but double check. That's probably a better way to put it. And a lot of students opt to go back for like a 5th year, and that's great. If you want to explore some other options in your 5th year, fantastic. What we prefer not to see, though, are repeated courses. Try and do your best the first time around, because we find that if you've had to repeat a course to better your marks, it may not be the best fit for you, okay? So just a little caution on that one. And while you're working away at school trying to get those great marks, just keep in mind that everything else matters too, especially here at Waterloo. What will happen is you will apply, and then we'll send you an additional information form that we'd like to see filled out. We want to know about everything else that you've done besides school. We want to see what you've done for part-time jobs, what you've done for volunteer work, how involved you are in your school. We want to see if you've been on sports teams, if you've done arts things, if you've been in the band. We want to know about everything else that you've done, because you know what? That's important too. We want to see really well-rounded students coming into engineering, okay? So make sure that you keep everything in balance, so you have time to do some of the other things that you enjoy as well. It really isn't just marks. We read each and every one of those additional forms as well, okay? And we take all of that into consideration. And there's some other engineering type things that are extracurricular that you can get involved with as well. And I'll just point out a couple here. One is Waterloo Unlimited, which is basically a high school enrichment program that's run here at the university, where you can come to campus, stay for a week in residence, and you explore different topics through a variety of different means. So my son did this once. He did a week on vision, and he did poetry about vision and science stuff about vision and engineering and art projects, and he stayed in residence, and it was a fantastic taste of university life. And he could try the different disciplines as well, right? It was a really good program, something for the girls to consider. Shad Valley is something similar, but it's a month-long program run at one of 12 universities across Canada. And what's neat about that, if you're a girl from KW, you won't be coming to Waterloo. You'll be going somewhere else in the country to do Shad Valley. And it is more of a science and engineering-based program where you're there for a month, lots of group project work, lots of good experience to be gained there. And the last one to consider is First Robotics, which is run through high schools and grade schools in the area here and throughout Ontario, actually throughout North America. And it's various competitions, building robots, solving problems, that type of thing. So different things to consider. We love to see those types of things on admissions applications to university. Okay? And that's about it. As I said, I am a field coordinator, and one of the things that we do is always look for new jobs for students. So my contact information is up there on the screen. Parents, keep in mind there's 105 different programs at Waterloo that have co-op. Okay, it's not just engineering. So if you're at work and you think we have this big project coming up, or there's a project that I would like to be involved in, need somebody to do my work for a few months, consider a co-op student. My contact information's there. If anybody wants to jot that down or pop me an email, I'd appreciate that. And the web link is also there for the admissions information for engineering for the girls. Thank you so much for your time. I hope that you will all consider engineering.